Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's Board of Appeals hearing. Before we begin, let me introduce some members of town government that act as advisors to this board. To my left is Paul Hennings, counsel to the board. To his left is David Flynn, assistant planning director. Now let me tell you why you're here tonight. New York State statute requires that any town that adopts zoning must also have a Board of Appeals to act as a relief valve so that those persons aggrieved by strict application of the zoning ordinance can seek relief without the expense of going to court. Town board can give Board of Appeals additional powers such as special exceptions, approvals, site plan approvals, etc. In Smithtown, the town board has given this board authority regarding certificate of existing use and some special exception uses. The most common kind of application before the board are area variances. Area variances deal with dimensions such as lot area, frontage, height, setback, and parking spaces. New York State statute mandates that the board must consider the following 5 criteria in area variances. When you come to the podium to present your application, you need to address these 5 areas. They're posted here for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be reduced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created. Number 2, whether the applicant has other feasible alternatives. Number 3, whether the variance is substantial. Number 4, whether an adverse impact on the environment will be created. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty is self-created. The statute requires the board to balance the interests of the applicant and those in the neighborhood or community. The statute further requires that the board shall grant the minimum variance it shall deem necessary and adequate, and at the same time preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The board has the power to impose reasonable conditions for granting variances. Special exception applications are different from area variances. When you have a special exception application before us, I will explain the difference. Regarding procedures, cases will be called in the order that they are advertised. When your case is called, please come forward, submit your affidavits and mailing receipts to Mr. Flynn. And then you will be sworn in the podium, and you'll be given the opportunity to explain to the board why you need the variance. After the applicant is done speaking, all interested parties will be given one opportunity and only one opportunity to be heard. So please organize your thoughts, keep your remarks factual that are related to the case. Then I will ask the applicant to come back to the podium to answer your concerns. The board will then close the case and reserve decision. After all the hearings are closed, the board will review the cases and decide some of them. Others will be reviewed at a later date. There are 3 ways to find out the results of the case. 1, you can wait until after the public hearing, but there's no guarantee the board will act on your case tonight. 2, you can call the planning department tomorrow afternoon. And 3, applicants can wait and be notified by mail. Okay? Okay. First case for tonight is 16844 Jenny Lau, 10 Harness Road, St. James. Location: west side of Harness Road, north of Edgewood Avenue, St. James, property zone R43. Request variance to reduce minimum side yard from 24 feet to 6 for an existing 288 square foot cabana. Reduce the side yard setback from 24 to 9 for an existing 140 square foot shed. Reduce the total side yards from 60 to 15 feet, cabana and shed. Increase the maximum front yard paving from 25% to 31%.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I have offices at 1038 West Jericho Turnpike in Smithtown. If you'd be so kind as to look at the site plan survey that's before you, you will see that the property is rather long and somewhat narrow, given it's in an R43 zone, and This was a development, I think, built around in the 80s. Um, um, by virtue of the name itself, it was initially developed for people to own horses and ride around the backs of the property. But anyway, it didn't get developed that way. And my client bought this property probably about 6 or 7 months ago. The property was in distress. He bought it. There were a lot of permits that were needed. He's applied for all the permits. This is what's left with respect to variances. And as you can see, the cabana, which is the first variance we're asking for, is the closest point is 6 feet from the side yard. But because the property is so long and because the house is situated, well, not close, but close enough to the front yard that this cabana is really part of the side yard of the property as opposed to calling it a side yard in the rear yard, which then it would be an accessory building, and we would be required to be 10 feet away and not 24 feet. The same is true for the other variance, which is the shed on the opposite side of the property, and that's variance from 24 to 9. Again, the shed was built by the prior owner, and it was built in the building envelope as opposed to it being built in the rear yard, which would have required 10 foot for an accessory building. The third variance has to do with the total side yards. The house complies with the side yard requirement, but the two outbuildings, the cabana and the shed, do not, because, again, it was built in the building envelope, and therein lies the need for the 60 feet to 15 feet. But bearing in mind, this only has to do with these two outbuildings. It certainly has nothing to do with the house, and it's just the nature of the size of the property and the length of the property. The final one increased the maximum paving from 25 to 31. Again, you can see that there's a circular driveway and also part of it that goes into a side yard entry garage. We feel that all these variances would not produce an undesirable change in the character of the area. In fact, what Mr. Lau is doing is legalizing a bunch of stuff, not only the ones we're asking variances for, but a whole lot of other things that he took on to make it right. Whether the applicant can achieve this by some other method, no, it's really, these things are all built. You can see the cabana is really right next to the swimming pool, and that's where it should be. Whether the variance is substantial, well, I guess if you look at the mere numbers, it seems like it's substantial, but then when you look at the site plan and you see the way it's set up, it isn't substantial. And whether the proposed variances will have any effect on the environment, it certainly would not. Was the alleged difficulty self-created? In this case, it wasn't. He did buy this property. As I said, it was in a distressed state. We checked out all of the necessary variances and permits, and he took on the project to make everything legal and do it right in the town. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration.
Okay, planning?
Just a few comments, Madam Chair. The variances for the side yards would, in some circumstances, be a problem for the future of the town overall, except that if they were granted routinely, but I don't think that variances like this would be granted routinely because the circumstances are unusual. The property is deep and it tapers and it becomes narrow toward the rear. Also, the adjacent homes are not, at least with respect to the cabana, which is larger, are not very close to the accessory structure. So I think the circumstances are unusual, and that therefore it's not like everybody who has property is entitled to this sort of relief. With respect to the paving in the front yard, it appears that it's probably beneficial for the environment because it looks like more paving will be removed than put down. They're going to remove part of the circular driveway and widen the existing driveway, and it appears that there's a slight net loss of paved surface, and that's better from a flooding standpoint, and it's better from a groundwater pollution standpoint.
Gentlemen?
No, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Really moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next case is case 16845, Levine Management. It is in the Mayfair Shopping Center. Location, south side of Jericho Turnpike, east of Walter Court, Comac Property Zone CB. Request variance reduce the minimum parking from 1,687 spaces to 1,586 spaces for a proposed 3,568 square foot addition. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Anthony Guardino. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Farrell Fritz. I represent Levin Management and the shopping center owner, Arlona Limited Partnership.
Can you, I guess, take that mic out? I don't see, let's see.
Oops. Is that better? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's better.
Just want to hand up the affidavits.
Sure, of course.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I am representing the property owner, Arlona Limited Partnership, and the property manager, Levin Management. They are seeking a very small 5-space modification of a parking variance that was previously approved by this board in 1998 in order to construct a proposed restaurant addition, which was also previously approved in 1998. So what we're actually seeking to do here is something that the board has already seen. It was years ago, but this was part of an approval in 1998. I have with me tonight Scott Normandin of Bowler Engineering. I also have Jerry O'Brien, who is Levin's Director of Development, in case the board has any questions. The property, I'm fairly certain that you're all very familiar with it. It's a 25-acre parcel located on the south side of Jericho Turnpike in the hamlet of Comac. The property is composed of, or comprised, I should say, of 2 tax lots, which are identified in Exhibit 1 of your book, where there's a tax map. Exhibit 2 is a street map, shows the relative location of the property. And there's also an aerial photograph at Exhibit 3, as well as a survey as Exhibit 4. The property is currently improved with a 218,000 square foot shopping center that provides parking for 1,610 cars. There are 1,586 actual spaces, and there's also 288 approved land bank spaces. There's also going to be associated landscaping and site improvements, and there are photos of the subject property, which you can see in your book at Exhibit 5. Property is located in the town's CB Central Business District. It expressly permits a shopping center use. It also permits the proposed restaurant use. Property has over 1,000 linear feet of frontage on Jericho Turnpike, which is a heavily traveled 4-lane New York State highway, travels through Comac, provides access to the many businesses that are located in the area. The property is surrounded to the south, east, and west by single-family residential uses located on Walter Court, Shirley Court, Verbena Drive, and Magnolia Drive. And these homes have coexisted with the shopping center for over 50 years. To the north, there are several commercial uses, such as a gasoline service station, a 7-Eleven convenience store, dry cleaner, beverage store, a Starbucks coffee shop, and a Sleepy's mattress store. And there is also the Mayfair Garden Apartments located directly across the street from the shopping center. And there are photos of the surrounding uses in the booklet at Exhibit 6. I do want to point out that the homes that are to the east on Verbena Drive and Magnolia Drive in the area that's going to be closest to where this restaurant is proposed are, in my opinion, sufficiently screened from the shopping center by a dense buffer of tall evergreen trees that were required as part of the prior approval. And I just incorporated in Exhibit 7 a photograph, and you can see how large and how dense those evergreen trees are. The applicant is now proposing to construct a 3,568 square foot restaurant at the east end of the center, adjacent to the Bagel Boss Cafe, and directly behind the Verizon store. So we're talking this area right here. You have the Verizon store here, Bagel Boss is here. And it's in the location of the former drive-through facilities for the former Bank of Smithtown. So this area here historically had been, many, many years ago, had been the drive-through for the bank when it was located here. So this is an area that had been not used historically for parking, or at least a portion of it had not been historically used for parking, had been the drive-through for the bank. And you can see the, here is the proposed site plan. There's a plan in your book. It's not color. There's also the elevations that show what the applicant is proposing to do in terms of facade. With the restaurant, the center requires a total of 1,687 parking spaces, but as I mentioned, the prior variance granted by this board on July 11th, 1998, was for a plan that included the same restaurant and another building that was located, was proposed on the west side of the center. As part of that approval, it allowed for parking for only 1,591 cars. And the prior zoning board approval is in your booklet at Exhibit 9. So as a result of the proposed restaurant, the center is now going to provide 1,586 spaces, which is only 5 spaces less than what was previously approved. So it's a very, very small discrepancy. And as Scott Normandin is going to explain, the restaurant will result in the elimination of the drive aisle that is used today by patrons who kind of hastily drive around the building here. As if you're familiar, that this drive aisle is here, and cars kind of come around here to access Shirley Court. This is, well, right now the corner is here. It's kind of a dangerous corner because it's a blind corner, both for cars heading this way and for cars coming this way. Scott's going to explain that this T intersection is a much safer situation. So at this point, I would like to call Scott Normandin. He's going to explain the site plan a little bit, if I could.
Let me have your name and spell your last name for me.
Yes, my name is John Scott Normandin from Bowler Engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer in New York State.
And your address?
Our office address is 2002 Orville Drive North in Ronkonkoma, New York.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Spelling of your last name again.
Sure, it's Normandin. Okay, as Mr. Gardino explained, we have our proposed building addition here. What we have here is an old survey. Down here you could see this area here where the proposed addition was a small cut-through area, and what we're proposing to do is excuse me, the new building here will take up that space that was once here, and what we're providing is some curbs and sidewalks to help channelize the existing drive aisles. We're not changing any of the existing site circulation as it exists today. And, sorry. This drive aisle will remain as it is. This drive aisle will remain as it is. We're eliminating the cut-through that ran through here, which will help clean up the circulation patterns in this area. And as Mr. Gardino said, the addition's going to match the rest of the center, and we're proposing some little bit of landscape improvements with it as well, just to help dress up the area. And that's it.
Thank you. If I just could quickly just address the 5 factors. I do not believe that the variance will produce an impact on adjacent properties or the neighborhood because in 1998, as I mentioned, the board previously determined that a parking reduction from 1,687 spaces to 1,591 would not have an impact on adjacent properties, and the current proposal, again, only reduces that number by 5 from what was previously approved. This decrease of 5 spaces, I would submit, is going to be imperceptible in a parking lot that has over 1,500 spaces, almost 1,600 spaces in it. The request is not substantial because, again, the decrease of only 5 parking spaces is a de minimis reduction from what was previously approved. Benefit cannot be achieved by an alternative because the addition of the proposed restaurant will eliminate some existing parking spaces and will generate the need for additional parking spaces. So there's going to be a net decrease in spaces. And the variance will not cause an adverse impact on the environment because the subject property is not environmentally significant. It's obviously developed with a shopping center and a large asphalt parking lot. Everything that we're touching there is already paved. So in fact, we're adding some green space where there was no green space before on the little triangle. That's just to the, I guess, to the northeast of the proposed restaurant. And finally, the difficulty, well, admittedly, is self-created because the applicant takes the property with knowledge of the applicable zoning regulations and is proposing to obviously construct a restaurant. But as this board knows, the town law 267B says that that one factor is not dispositive as a basis for a denial. So I would submit that on balance, the benefit to the applicant far outweighs any detriment, which I think is none to the neighbors. But I will obviously, the neighbors will have their word here. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning?
Madam Chair, the Planning Department looked at this, and we would recommend approval subject to 3 conditions. First is that the lighting needs to be shielded, angled straight down and shielded so that the glare is not visible off-site. A site inspection revealed that the existing lighting at the where this will be built, the lighting on the wall isn't shielded well enough. Now, obviously, that lighting will be removed for the addition to be put in, but it should be replaced with lighting that complies with the zoning ordinance. Second is we'd recommend that the existing buffer within 100 feet of this and adjacent to the residence districts be left in its current state. The applicant did not indicate any intention of removing the buffer, but I'm a little concerned that where they're building this, there'll not be enough parking and that a future tenant may request that the buffer in the back be reduced to provide parking. I think people should go into this with their eyes open, knowing that if the board approves it, that that buffer is important and needs to stay there as long as the addition stays there. Third, in this, I think might shift a little bit of the through traffic through the center to go closer to the homes to the east. And in order to discourage that, I'd recommend that the board impose a condition of approval that there be traffic calming, just like there is today. There is some traffic calming over there, but some traffic calming to discourage through traffic and to lower the speed. Hopefully, this addition will kind of funnel traffic to go in the direction of the supermarket. You know, it would make sense. But I'm concerned that some people will, if they're coming from Jericho Turnpike, will make a quick left and a quick right, and they'll actually be driving closer to the homes. So some sort of a speed table or, oh gosh, I can't think of the word right now, but something to discourage through traffic and to slow it down if it does occur. So that's what we recommend.
Madam Chair, my client has no objection to those conditions.
Okay, great. Okay, is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Come up, please. You can all line up right back behind. All right, I'm going to ask for your name. I'm going to ask you to spell your last name, your address, and I'll swear you in. May I have your name, please?
Yes, Richard Golden. I live at 35 Walter Court. I spell my last name Golden.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, what I'm about to say doesn't affect me directly, but it affects the issue of garbage. And the question is, right now, the main garbage collection point that they've built this surrounding thing is not really anywhere near this thing. A couple of years ago, there was an application before the board to put where there now is a Verizon store, some kind of a fast food place, and they were denied the ability to do it because of the possibility of rats towards Verbena, which had a history. And it's strictly the issue of the amount of garbage they would generate and what it would do to the environment. My question to the board, you might want to refer to that from your memory, is where's all this garbage going? And where are they going to put it? And how are they going to, restaurants generate vermin. And this isn't like where the Chinese restaurant is, way at the end where you've got 80 feet going back where there's nothing there. This is going to be closer to where Verbena is. As you said, traffic's going to be funneled. And so I just raised the question that you might want to put to the engineers as to what they plan to do with all this. Thank you.
Next, please. May I have your name, please?
Sebastian Piccioni,
Spell your last name.
Piccione.
All right, and your address?
65 Verbena Drive.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Okay, my house, 65 Verbena, is the front of my house is facing, which is now the bagel restaurant. So by adding that addition, that's actually, when you're on my front lawn or, you know, we're spending time on the lawn, then instead of looking at a parking lot, we're going to have a commercial building that's facing directly at us. It's a lot closer than we feel is necessary. There's other spots in that shopping center, if they need a restaurant, they could add it. That won't affect Verbena or any other streets.
All right. Just let me just say this to all of you. This is permitted. He is not asking for any variances except a parking variance. And that's the only thing that's before us, is a parking variance.
What about as far as the restaurant? We already have a rodent problem.
That is not before us. That is just the parking is before us.
So he's actually entitled to have this restaurant at that
He
location.
He is.
Okay. As a restaurant in this area, would they be allowed, they'll have a bar at that location then probably.
I don't know that.
Are they entitled to have a bar if it's a restaurant? Do we know?
Yes.
What about a cabaret license?
No.
No? All right. They could put on the record that I object to having any kind of restaurant in that area. We have kids that live there. A restaurant's going to change that area, that block, and it's going to change the characteristics of the neighborhood. And it's completely unnecessary to have a restaurant that close to a residential area that's never been there, especially when the shopping center has plenty of room to build a 3,500 square foot restaurant.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I understand what you're talking about, but I'm not on the board. They're powerless to help or hurt you on that regard. I think you need to make the town board know what your concerns are. Not that they can do something about this particular one now because the application's already in, but the town board is elected by folks like you, and they normally want to know what your concerns are.
All right, because back in 1998, that's pretty long. That's 16 years ago.
Right.
To put in for a restaurant 16 years ago and now say that we're justified in putting in, it just seems unusual to me.
Yeah.
Everything changes, and I believe that should have changed too.
Okay.
And the other thing, when we discussed lighting, when they put the Verizon building in that shopping center, we came from one of the things about signs and lighting. Well, the lighting they put into that neighborhood, into that building, is wonderful. It lights up their parking lot, but it also lights up the side of my house. It's like daylight. I have children sleeping there, and that was before this board, and now I have to live with it. And if you ever go there at night and look at my house, you'll see that it's like daylight on the side of my house where the bedroom windows are.
Why don't that, again, that's not in our authority, but what I would do if I were you, if it's not shielded, I tell you, I would call the building department and speak to them, because it should be shielded,
Okay.
all right?
I guess there's not much else I can do.
You know, we don't have the,
I think they should be required, they should be turned down on the 5 spots. Let them
Oh.
figure out another way of getting around. If they're here for 5 spots, that in itself doesn't sound right.
thank you.
Allison McGinnis,
Say your last name,
McGuinness, 65 Urbina Drive.
raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Basically, again, that building right there, I guess, like I said, you approved it anyway, but we have small children, a ton in that block. Letting those cars drive through, no matter what you do, we already have 3 stop signs there. Guess what? They blow right through them. We've already had a dozen times we've had to grab our kids because they've almost come up on our property and killed our children. That's absolutely ridiculous. By blocking that area where they're going to turn, you just brought a whole bunch more cars right through our neighborhood, which is absolutely a nightmare. We have 3 new families that moved on the block alone, and you know what? We can't put our kids on our front lawn because we put in a nice restaurant. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. To own a home and not be able to let your children go out in the front lawn because you have cars barreling down. Now building that, you're blocking off that nice little turn frame. You know what? That buffer of the thing was able to let the cars go around so they didn't have to come down my street and slam right into my front yard. I've already had cars and everything else. That nice Verizon building you put next door to me, well, you know what? Oh, let's do a one-way, if that's what your idea is, which is a nice kind of a little bit of thing to get the cars going the opposite way. Nobody abides by that. They all go the other way. I've already had somebody almost crash into my fence on that side. Not only do I have Verizon people who torment my animals, my pets, on the side of my fence, I also have people who park over on Bagel Boss when they can't park enough. They park all in front of my house. So now you've just alleviated those parking spaces. So now anybody who's going to go to the restaurant, let's have them park in front of my house or maybe on my driveway. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to take away those spaces, to build a building that you don't need. That space, that driveway, you need it for those cars to go through so they don't come to our neighborhood and kill the children along that street. Also, you talked about shrubbery and calling Levin Management. That's a waste of time. Those nice landscapers, all they do is blow all the garbage onto my front yard and the person across the street's front yard. That's all they do. They don't plant new trees. We have trees that are dead all around. So you want to build nice trees? Why don't you fix the ones that are dead? I came home from a nice trip with your variance sign planted on top of my fence that I paid for, which I came to this board and found out it's technically the store's fence. Oh, no, it's now my fence because they didn't want to fix it because their landscapers tore it down 4 times. So speaking with Levin Management gets you nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. And to do this, like I said, you just caused a whole big traffic jam by putting that up there. And there's not going to be any shrubbery. There's no nice shrubbery. There's no nice lighting. They're not going to do anything for you. It's just a big facade. It really is.
Thank you.
Hello, Cami Manganello on Magnolia Drive.
Spell your last name.
Manganello.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I have similar concerns to Allison. I have 2 young children, and as a mother of 2 young children, I fear having this restaurant. Again, I walk a lot. Even with having these stop signs, I see people blow right through them every single day. I've seen where people have almost crashed because the traffic, no one pays attention to the stop signs. This is going to drive more traffic, and just with the rodents and the garbage, it's not going to be good for the community. And as Allison said, we have a lot of young families and a lot of young kids, and I just don't feel comfortable having a restaurant, and if they have a bar license and a liquor license, and with the parking along our, in our backyard, what if they have a few drinks and go crashing right through the fence? And as it is, we don't get any response from the management. The fences are all down, so now this is going to cause more accidents, more traffic, and again, just nervous for all our young kids in the area.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Cantwell. I live at 48 Rabina Drive. Michael, common spelling. Last name is Cantwell, Cantwell.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. I'm new to the area. I've been there 2 years. I have 2 small children. Like the other people were saying, that I stand in front of the bus stop there on Rabina and Magnolia, watching cars zip by, ignoring the stop signs that drive into the shopping center. In the shopping center, there are stop signs. There's one going east that people ignore as well. It's a chaotic place as it is. There's no stop lines, so people don't stop at all, so they just run right through them. As far as the traffic conditions that they did, one of the conditions that they, as far as the buffer, I don't know if that's going to help us as far as, I think there's going to be a change in our quality of life. With cars parked right there and increased traffic in that area. And the traffic column, which I don't know what that is, but to deter traffic, they're going to go around anyway. There's 2 accesses to the shopping center, Rabina and Walter in the rear. People use that as extension of Jericho Turnpike when they want to get to their homes. It's used as a cut through on a regular basis. So that the buffer that they do stay with the trees does exist, but there is an opening to the shopping center, and so I have to pick up the trash that comes from the shopping center on a daily basis. This restaurant's just going to add to my problems in addition to the rodents as well. I know we're here to just talk about parking spots, but there's next to the Bagel Boss, there's a yogurt place that apparently is not occupied at the moment. There's a former postal place that's now used by H&R Block that's temporarily being used. Bagel Boss can rent that spot if they're interested. I'm sure they can work out a deal with the landlord there. If it comes down to parking spots and them not getting this place, I strongly emphasize to the board to deny them this variance. Thank you.
Tina Toomey, 52 Verbena Drive, Comac.
Spell your last name.
Toomey.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay, I am in the house that is directly adjacent to the Bagel Boss, so I'm going to be affected probably the most. Let me let you know what we're dealing with right now. As it is right now, there are rodents all over. When we've called the town and called people about the rodents, they told us, well, there's a huge rodent problem in Comac. Everybody knows that. Okay, well, we didn't know that. But part of the rodent problem, and I've called the Board of Health on this as well, is the Bagel Boss does not throw their bagels in the dumpster. And they just throw it anywhere.
You know,
I understand.
I sympathize.
So I understand, but I'm just getting to a point, I promise. So as it is, we're cleaning up constantly after these people. Now, from what I see here, it looks like the parking is going to be directly against my fence. So directly against my backyard, because I don't have a backyard. I have a side yard, and that's where it is. So I'm going to have parking directly next to my home. I have 2 children with asthma, and now I'm going to have cars closer to my home. I can't let the children out as it is because there's a septic problem. And they have to have the septic tanks cleaned every day. And the only reason they do that is because, again, I had to call the Board of Health and have them go in because we couldn't go outside of our property for about a year. The other issue is, and I know you don't want to hear about the rats and all of the other stuff, but there are people who are sitting outside in the daytime and rats are coming up to them. In Comac, our property values are falling through the toilet. There is tons of space on the other side. I don't know if you know where the MJM shoe store is. Tons of space. There's also an empty Talbot's, which is a very big store. I don't understand why they have to build onto and take away spots and be closer to homes that have small children. And they use our Verbena Drive as an alternate to Jericho Turnpike. And there's a school at the corner of Verbena Drive. So people fly through the corner and almost kill your kids constantly. And I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but when somebody gets killed, it's going to be on everybody's conscience. We have been begging for you to close the entrance. And they said it's grandfathered in, and we understand all of that, but it is dangerous. People are flying into our property. It's not 5 miles an hour, and we've had police officers sit there, and all they'll do is give warnings for 15 people in an hour running through a stop sign. Now there are going to be less spots and people more direct coming into my property. They're going to hit my property. They're going to be up on my lawn. They're going to be through my fence and in my pool. I'm going to find somebody dead in my pool one day, and I really believe that. That's my biggest nightmare. So I would really ask you not to grant this variance for them to take spots away and have a more direct route to run through my home. Thank you.
The other thing I'm going to tell you is, you know, we are very limited
I understand.
as far as authority. But you really need, even to close that, we don't have the authority to do that.
We've met with people. We even met with COPE because the only shopping center in Comac that doesn't have security, guess which one? The Mayfair, the biggest shopping center probably next to Macy's. No security ever. No cameras. My house was burglarized the day after we met with COPE, and they took everything. There was no way of finding them because they used the Mayfair shopping center as their getaway. It's ridiculous. They tie your hands. And in 1998, none of us lived there. So none of us knew that a restaurant was going to be coming in. We're fighting just to keep our lives the way they are. And now to have this is crazy. We need betterment. They're going to really destroy the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Okay. Come on up, Mr. Guardino.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be hiding there. I'll just make a couple of very, very brief comments. With respect to the garbage issue, I'm told that this restaurant will continue to use the existing shared garbage dumpster enclosure that's on the premises in the back here.
You got to see. They can't hear you.
The enclosure is actually located. Let's see here, or Scott or something. Here, enclosure actually is right here. It's a large enclosure, and the stores along here share that enclosure, and this store would also share that same enclosure. So to the extent obviously they'll be generating garbage, but the garbage will be brought back here, which is further away from the Verbena Drive residences. Thank you. And then the other comments, there were a couple of people who commented about the traffic, and again, I'm sure that they are concerned, but as I mentioned earlier, I do think, and as Scott mentioned, I do think that this will actually alleviate those concerns. They may not believe that, but the having a T intersection here, where cars have to come, stop, make a right turn, and the same thing here as cars approach to the north, they have to come to this T intersection and then make a left. That will alleviate the traffic that I've experienced this. The traffic does move pretty quickly, as I mentioned earlier, around this building, and it is a little bit dangerous because it is a blind spot. And you will have cars having to come to a full stop. Plus, as Mr. Flynn mentioned, the staff is recommending a traffic calming device, whether it be a speed table or et cetera. We're fine with that, and I think that's going to further help the situation. And then lastly, the I think it was Ms. Toomey who pointed out about the parking that's going to be close to your house. I just wanted to be, I wanted you to know that the parking that's actually proposed along the fence area that you're seeing as being closer to your house is actually land bank parking, and there's no intention to actually construct those spaces. So the parking that you think is coming closer to you will not be coming closer to you because the rat issue, I just, I don't know what to say about that.
Excuse me, you cannot talk
sorry.
from the audience. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll happy to take a look at that. That's something I just learned tonight. I will speak to my client, and if there's something that we can do, we obviously will do it. But, that's news to us.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Is Israeli moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. A copy of what? You'd have to go back to ask Mr. Guardino, maybe outside, he can show it to you? All right. No. Mr. Guardino? The residents, if you don't mind, if you went out to the back, they would like to just see what's the copy of things? All right? Thank you. The library is open if you can want to use it. Next case is case 16846, NCTC LLC, SCC Realtor LLC, care of Smithtown, Toyota. 360 east of Jericho Turnpike, Smithtown. Location, northwest corner of Middle Country Road and Linder Place, Smithtown. Property zone, WSI. Request variance to increase the maximum area of 2 ground signs from 40 square feet to 180 square feet. Increase the maximum number of ground signs from 1 to 2.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. SSC Realty and NCTC Realty LLC, that's a tongue twister. The properties are owned or operated by Toyota. And if you will recall, what was there a few short years ago was on the adjacent parcel where the building is, a beverage place with a little deli, and it was really going into great disrepair. Toyota bought it and rebuilt the building and did a beautiful job creating a used car area there. The next thing that they bought was the adjacent parcel, which was Smithtown Plumbing. Another antiquated building, probably built in the 50s. They threw that building down, and they're here. They provided a site plan, and it was approved for a parking area, a storage area for the cars that Toyota offers for sale. These are on 2 separate tax lots, and as you can see, they're also owned by 2 different entities. Now, the frontage on the existing first parcel, the beverage parcel, is about 270 feet along Jericho, and the second one is a little more than, or about 200 feet. Each of those parcels at one time had their own signs. The Smithtown Plumbing had its sign, and the beverage place had its sign. So what we're asking the board to do is to grant a variance, and I don't like to use the term second sign because it's not us that combine these parcels. It's the town that said, well, we're using them in conjunction with each other, but we have over 470 feet. So to ask for another Toyota sign, exactly the same as this board granted for the first parcel, the beverage building parcel, is certainly not something that would be out of the ordinary or unreasonable. If another use came in there on the second parcel, you would have to grant us, if we came in, or the building department would have to give us a permit for the second sign. As a matter of fact, there is a sign there now that states Toyota, which was the existing Smithtown Plumbing sign. All we want to do is replace that sign. It runs a course between the two parcels, as I said, about 470 feet. As you know, Toyota has rebuilt and fixed up every building they own, both on the north side and the south side of the property. And in the tradition of all the car dealerships in the area, Toyota is one that maintains its property and bought two basic blights on the neighborhood on that side and fixed it up and well, you know what it looks like today. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration on the second exact sign, just like you granted a few months ago. Will it change the character of the area? This is Dealership Row. Smithtown should be proud that they have probably the best well-kept dealerships on Long Island, and Toyota certainly is one of them. Whether the benefit of the applicant could be achieved by some other method, well, I guess we could take down the existing sign and not put a sign up, but it's really not fair because we did take two different parcels and created a beautiful used car dealership and sufficient parking and storage, well-lit and beautifully landscaped. Whether it's substantial, no, it's not. It's the same Toyota signs that you granted in the past. Most of the sign is not writing. It's a solid sign, so as you know, you count the whole sign. You have a copy of it, I see. So, again, they're all the same. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, well, I think we created a beautiful thing here. We bought two parcels that were certainly going downhill, vintage 40s and 50s, and built or refurbished one building and built a beautiful storage area for the other. The Canada family started their business, I believe, in 48 or around that time, and Steve Canada has taken it over, and with his general manager, Dennis Dagger, they've done a tremendous job in beautifying that area. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. Again, there's no environmental impact with the sign that we're asking for. If the board has any questions, I have Mr. Dagger here. Again, he's the general manager. Thank you.
Planning?
Just one comment, Madam Chair. The Planning Department recommends approval, not because it's a separate parcel, because from a zoning standpoint, even though there are two tax lots, it's one use, and not because to reward Toyota for doing such a good job at cleaning up this strip, which they really did, but basically because it's in keeping with the character of the area and there are unusual circumstances here. The zoning ordinance basically anticipated the widths of lots to be about 100 feet, 100 to 200 feet, and that a sign would be in the district about every 100 to 200 feet apart. And since this is 400 plus, it's actually almost 500 feet of frontage, putting in 2 signs is not out of character. And related to that, the design of the sign itself, while it may seem substantial to go from 40 square feet to 180,
Yeah.
the bulk of that is actually the base that sort of looks like marble or some form of stone. And again, the zoning ordinance anticipated that the signs would be, in essence, like a piece of plywood stuck upon 2 poles. Since this is obviously a lot better than that, it's almost more of a sculpture. I think it's fair to say that most citizens in the town would say that this is an upgrade to the area.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? No, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Come up, please. May I have your name, please?
Mary Beth Siskind, S-I-S-K-I-N-D.
Okay. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I need your address.
21 Franklin Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I want to say that since I was here in September, I have been very pleased. Mr. Daggett has,
Address this board, please.
okay, Mr. Daggett has worked with me. I've also worked with Jeffrey Horton about the problem with the transport vehicles coming through our neighborhood, Lindner, Blackman, Franklin. So we are working on it, the Suffolk County Police Department as well. But I just want you to understand, just like what you heard with the people who are so upset about the Mayfair, there is, I mean, okay, it is Automobile Row, but there are housing areas behind. And it's probably the granddaddy of all cut-throughs from
Again, I'm going to say the same
Jericho.
thing to you, and not to be rude, but this is, the only thing that's in front of us is a sign, and that's the only thing you can really address is the sign. We have no other authority for the cut-through or anything else. That's
Yeah,
all that's before us is the sign.
I realize that, but you know, you can see how the people felt before,
I
because
understand that, but we do not have any authority.
all right, I'm in favor of the sign, and I look forward to continuing to work with Mr. Daggett and the police and Mr. Horton.
Okay, that's
I just want you to understand that there are people living behind, and it can be a problem. As beautiful as it looks, there can be problems.
I do understand, but like I said, we don't have any authority.
Right. It's just that you're here in the evening, and it's hard to get to town board meetings, to be honest. All right.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Moving in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. Next case is case 16847. Sandra and Robert Dale. Its location is 226 Town Line Road. East of Town Line Road, south of Don Way, Comac, property zone R21. Special exception. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a special exception. If it is a permitted use if they meet all the criteria. If they do not meet all the criteria, they have to ask for variances. Special exception to permit a temporary living quarters for family member. Variance of a special exception standard to increase the temporary living quarters from 600 square feet to 633 square feet. Variance of a special exception standard to have a floor plan that is not economically and practical to convert back to a single-family use, garage. Variance of a special exception standard to permit temporary living quarters not in the main residence. Variance to permit a second one-family dwelling on R21 lot. Permit a rear dwelling without a separate frontage and other lot dimensions. Permit a principal structure to be located behind any other principal structure. Permit a lot area, frontage, or yard for one building to be used as part of the required lot area, frontage, or yard for any other building. Permit a principal building to have its own frontage on a public street. Permit a building structure not in the building envelope. Reduce the minimum rear yard for a principal building from 75 feet to 74. And your name, please?
My name is Robert Dale, D-A-L-E,
Okay.
and this is Sandra,
And your address?
226 Town Line Road.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Is this lady going to speak, or your wife, or?
Probably not.
Probably not.
She may.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. In 2005, we purchased this house on Town Line Road with the intent to move in with our children. We had done our due diligence with our lawyers, and everybody had come back and interpreted the garage as a living space on one of the permits. So we have it says, so that's the way it was interpreted at the time. And when we had also put later on in 2011, we put a basement entrance in. We had an inspector from the town come, who also looked at the space, looked at the permitting that was prior to us purchasing the property, and had said it's an illegal accessory space. So that's the way it was interpreted. Since then, it was interpreted that it's not a legal accessory apartment or family dwelling. So now what we're trying to do, because all of this was built prior to us purchasing the house, so what we're just trying to do now is bring it up to code and, get everything to be where it's supposed to be. So that's really what we're trying to do. Because we didn't realize that. We haven't changed anything. We haven't changed anything to it. Now, as far as this variance, it won't impact the property, other neighboring properties, because it's been there since 1981. There's no additional footprint being put in or any place. It's been there already.
Just a question, what's been there since 81? What's been
The
there?
detached garage.
Okay.
It's not, again, and question two is, it's not substantial because there's nothing being changed since before. We didn't change anything. We're not adding anything or subtracting anything from it. As far as being benefit, it can't be achieved by an alternate because the existing structure is already in place and wouldn't cause a problem, we see, because it's already there. And I don't see where it would have an adverse effect on the environment. It has not done so in the past. It's been there for 21 years. And so we're just trying to bring it up to code. We haven't changed anything. We purchased it that way.
Well, let me tell you, you
And-
were misinformed because you probably purchased it as a garage. That doesn't give you the right to turn it into an apartment.
I didn't turn it into an apartment. It was
But
already
now you're
there.
asking for it to be into an apartment?
Well, we're looking for a special exception to have one of our children move in, our family members to move in.
One of your
When we finally, we want to get this thing up to code and then move in. That's what we're intending to do.
All right. The other thing I have to say, and I'm looking at your plan, doesn't look like your house is a single-family dwelling. You have a kitchen on the first floor, you have a kitchen on the second floor.
It was, again, it was purchased, everything was purchased this way. We didn't put anything in.
Can I ask questions?
ahead.
Do you live on the property?
Not yet.
How many families live on the property now? How many?
We have one family, and I have a family member living in, one family and somebody living in the accessory apartment, my
Okay.
brother.
The second floor, there's a door that separates the second floor from the first floor. So it looks like two dwelling units. Also, there's an exterior entrance to the second floor in the back, which is a second indication that the second floor is a separate apartment from the first floor. Do you have any reaction to that?
The door, there's no door on the, going separating the first floor from the second floor.
The plans show a door at the top of the stairway. That's my
It might be a
recollection. I looked at it
doorway.
yesterday. My recollection is a door
There is.
at the top of the stairs.
Right, but it's not gonna be two, it's not two families, where there's not gonna be two families living in there. It's gonna be one family living in there.
What is the purpose of having two kitchens, one on the second floor?
That's the way I purchased the house. I didn't have a problem with it because we were either gonna take it out or move it or let the kids live upstairs and we live downstairs. See, they're getting older now, so we're kind of give a little separation because as they become older and adults, we want to give them their own space.
And you want to put another child into this family member as a child that you're saying, into the garage?
Yes.
How did it come to your attention that there was a problem? The inspection for an addition, for an entrance to the cellar?
Yeah, there was no, after that, there was an inspection, and then they said that we went to the town to try to, and somebody from the town interpreted, when we looked at, we showed all the permits that were done prior to us purchasing the house,
Right.
and I said, it says detached 624 square feet as accessory to one family dwelling. That's the way everybody interpreted it, and the person from the town said, no, that's not an accessory, and that's when we realized that it wasn't. And there's one here that says convert garage to living space to a one-family dwelling, 400 square feet. So we were like, okay, this is, it's been permitted, everything's good, everything's up to code.
Okay.
And now, it's not so.
Were there more than one family living there in the past 14 years? You bought it in 98, you said?
No, I bought it in 2005.
Oh, 2005, okay. Has there been more than one
There
family?
was somebody living in there, when we purchased it, there was somebody living in there, and we let them stay there they lived there for about a year. We were gonna try to, we put a patio in the back, and we painted it, we did some things to it, put gutters on it, and just tried to make it nice, for us to move into. It needed some work. It needed a lot of work. So we've been, through the years, putting more and more work into it whenever we can save enough to do it. It's been a little hard lately.
I'm speaking out of turn a little bit, but because the chair is over there. But
I'm sorry.
if you could just bear with me, just two more comments. One is the planning department is normally supposed to do an advisory report on this, and we didn't have a chance to. The person who used to be our liaison to this board got a better job. So we're scrambling around trying to fill his shoes. And we need to do that report for the board. The second thing is there are indications that it's designed for 3 families, even though you may have only one family there, 2 in the main building and 1 in the accessory building. If the board were to approve this special exception for the temporary living quarters in the accessory building, the board might condition that approval upon converting the main building into something that's definitely a single family. The second concern or issue that I've seen in the past is the zoning ordinance implies that accessory apartments are supposed to be in the main building and not in an accessory building. The board has approved, I think, in the past, and I've worked here for probably too long, but in the past 30 years or so, I think that there are probably 3 cases where the board approved an apartment in an accessory building. And I remember 2 of them were really extraordinary. One was on like a 2 or 3 acre lot where the accessory building was like a cottage adjacent to the village of Nissaquag, where they allow that sort of thing. Another one was in a 2-family zone in Kings Park. And I can't remember where there was a third, but I believe there was a third. More often than not, they're not approved because it seems as though that the intent of the town board is to not permit these. That seems to be the policy. If you look at the wording carefully, it seems to say that these uses are supposed to be in the main building. So the board normally likes to help out applicants, but you or they have a tough road to hoe here in terms of demonstrating why the board should approve an accessory apartment in the accessory building and not in the main building. I don't, that's a rhetorical thing, and you need a little time to address that. But I was going to say, who would live in the apartment?
This would be our family. We have 4 children, so this would be our family.
But in the, okay, so one of the children would live in the
Yeah.
detached garage? Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
thanks. Well, that was a
And
problem in
could-
other situations where someone was a cousin,
Yeah.
and the
Well-
zoning ordinance permits only members of the immediate family.
Can I say something? Do I have to
Now
say
you
my
have to
name?
be sworn
I
in.
have to swear you in then.
Oh.
That's
So come
right.
up to the thing, give me your name,
Sandra Dale.
okay, and the same address. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Going back to the why would you want to do extraordinary circumstance or whatever, one of the reasons we bought the house in 2005 was the attraction was that there was this, a legal accessory. All of us interpreted it that way. So that was the attraction to it. So, that would be one of the reasons why, for us, we didn't change anything. We're just trying to get that.
I know, but I don't even know how
For-
you got that approved by the bank, that it was an apartment.
Well-
And even when we went to do our plans, our draftsman said, "Oh, look, you have," we all interpreted it that way. So
you have you-
that's one of the things that it's important. It was important to us. That's the reason we purchased the house. So it diminishes the value for us of the house, really, because well, we have this. Just that what the permit says here, how it's read. Do you have it in front of you? We can show it to you.
I can, go ahead. I'll handle it. Okay, you can go back. It says it's a tool shed, and then it says convert garage to living space to a 1-family dwelling, 400 square feet.
And then the bottom one there, I guess the one following that is about the detached garage is accessory. Right.
You want to look at this?
What is that, the property card?
Mm-hmm.
This was all done prior to us moving in.
I haven't seen it.
I'll look at this, let you look at it.
Whenever. No hurry. I have a question. What made you apply for this?
Wanna pass this?
What made us apply for the permit?
For
Oh,
this, to
there,
legalize this?
because someone thought there was someone living, one of the neighbors thought someone was living in the tool shed.
Hmm.
And so when the
And?
inspector came, obviously, there was no one living in the tool shed. And we were under the impression that we had this legal
Okay.
apartment, so it wasn't, for us, it was fine.
I have a question looking at that. Was there a garage attached to the house that was converted to living space?
That's right.
That's
the
what-
400
This
square,
is where-
that's the
That's where-
400, right.
So you're asking
But
us
then
for-
there's the
But
624
that was not-
detached.
Yes, but
That
it-
also says, it reads as if it also is accessory to,
Yes, but as a garage, not as a
but
living
that's not
space.
the way it was read or interpreted, I'm sorry.
Who did the
I'm sorry.
interpretation? You?
When you
The
asked,
our attorney also,
Because on the site plan you submitted, it clearly states one-story frame garage.
we,
Doesn't say accessory structure.
but the permit card does. You know, so that's the way, and also when they did the search, that's the way it was, it came back to us.
But using, like, I would call grammar, one wouldn't come to that conclusion. It says detached garage as accessory to one-family dwelling.
Yeah.
It doesn't say apartment, it doesn't say it is a one-family dwelling, it says a detached garage is accessory to one-family dwelling. It would seem to me, just my opinion, that most people would say that there's a garage that's accessory to a dwelling, not a dwelling accessory to a dwelling.
When you asked the question, was there an attached garage that was converted? That's what we found out. We didn't realize that there was an attached
You gotta use the
garage.
mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you had just asked, was there an attached garage that was converted? By that, for you to have to ask that question, that's what, we didn't understand that either. We didn't know, because it was the way it was. So we didn't realize there was a garage attached that was converted. So we interpreted it, and our lawyers interpreted it, as being, you know, a garage converted to living space. And that's the way it was
But
read.
that card does not make reference to any living area inside that detached garage, though, does it?
No.
It just says detached garage.
Right.
CO'd in '83.
They must have missed it. We did our due diligence. We did do it. We did as, we
You wanna give this back to him?
Oh.
All right.
Do you want to adjourn it? for
Yeah,
us to
let's
do a
adjourn
memo?
it.
Could you give us some?
You
4
wanna
weeks?
give him,
People want to.
yeah, I know, people are gonna wanna talk.
4 weeks, two meetings? What's your agenda? It's hard for the next meeting.
Yeah. February 12th, is that enough time?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to let everyone speak. The reason I'm going to adjourn it is because when it's a special exception, the planning department needs to do a report, and you are entitled to read that report and to comment on it. All right? So,
No secret either.
there's no secret, right? So, but I what do you call it? So I'm going to adjourn it to February 12th. All right, so that you can read the report, and you have the right to do that, okay? And then comment on it.
then we come back here.
You're going to come back here, yes. And then, but in the meantime, I'm going to let the other people speak. Okay? Okay. So if you're going to speak, line up here, please.
I also, question for you. My next door neighbor wasn't feeling well and wrote a letter that she signed. Can I submit this to you?
You can. Thank you. Okay, let me have your name and address, please.
My name is Laura Perocier. The last name is Perocier, and I live at 228 Town Line Road.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. We're directly next door to this residence, and a few things I would like to point out. The picture that I have submitted to you is really the biggest part of the problem that my husband Robert and I have with what's going on next door to us. And basically, I'm surprised that they said there's only one person living in that house, because we've lived there now 3 years, and there is one family downstairs that goes in the front way and one family upstairs that goes in through the back access through the deck. And I work from home. I see them all the time. And they're lovely, quite frankly. They've never caused any problems. The reason I was upset was we started to see construction done on what I thought was a garage in the back of the house, and started to see someone actually living there. And the reason we knew someone was living there is that's our backyard that is right across from where the garage is. And we saw someone barbecuing, and they had renovated it, and it was like a little mini backyard. So that, in essence, makes 3 separate families, if you will, living on one property. I called up the town because I really don't know much about what the rules are, being new a few years ago, just to inquire about it, because it just seemed a little strange that that many people could be allowed to stay there, and was told that that's not allowed. And right after I did that, our neighbors put up a fence in between our yards, which we were grateful for. It blocked our view. But the problem that we see now, and I'm not trying to be difficult with the neighbors who own the property, is they don't live on the property, and we do live on our property next door. And as you can see from that picture, with that amount of people living in that one building and the back building, there's a significant amount of cars. And what they've done is they've started parking just up on the lawn, which is right next to our property. So when I look at the variance considerations and you think of housing prices and value of your property, it doesn't look good when we keep our house up nice and our neighbors around us do the same. And we've got like Sanford and Son living next to us with cars on grass. It's not what we signed up for when we purchased our home. And it really is unfair. And so I don't really know what the resolution is. Like I said, I'd like to be clear. We've never had any problems from our neighbors. The people they have renting there now have been lovely and no problems whatsoever. But there are definitely 2 families living there, and a third was living in that back. And my husband and I can attest to it, as can our other neighbors who live in the vicinity. And my biggest beef, again, would be you have to do something. If you're going to allow that many people, you can't have cars parked up on the grass. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Gregory Appel. I live at 32 Peppermint Road. My last name is Appel. And I live behind.
Raise your right hand.
Oh, okay.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but
I
the
do.
truth?
Okay, I live behind, and I could agree with her. She pretty much said everything. I've been there before 2005, and ever since then, it's been from what I can see, a multiple family rental home. Just different rent. There were problems very early on. The people that are there now are very good, but you couldn't get in touch with the owners when we did have problems with noise and things. Try to find them, you couldn't. And there are cars parked all over the place. There's a lot of traffic. They're on the lawn. It just doesn't go with the neighborhood. Nobody else parks on the lawn.
Okay, thank you.
And that's pretty much it. She said it all.
Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Next, please.
Andrew Baird, 232 Town Line Road, B-A-I-R-D.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I got the notice in the mail. I do see the cars parked on the lawn. I do agree with what she said. Absentee landlords, it's an apartment going on back there. So I would just beg that you do not allow it to continue to happen.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm going to return this to you. Okay? Okay. This has been adjourned to February 12th. They will have the right to look at the report from the planning department. Okay? No. And you can wait till you see the PAR, and then you can rebut whatever you need to do. Okay? Next case is case 1684A, Maureen and Patrick Kelly. No. It's your turn, I'm sorry. That's okay. Maureen and Patrick Kelly, 65 Columbus Avenue, Smithtown location, north side of Columbus Avenue, west of Hop Park Road, Smithtown, property zone R10. Variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 28 for proposed 35 square foot portico, 33 feet existing. And your name, please?
Hi, good evening. My name is Maureen Kelly, Kelly, and this is my husband, Patrick Kelly.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. My husband and I are the primary property owners for 65 Columbus Avenue, and we had unfortunately sustained significant damage to our roof from Hurricane Sandy, which pretty much destroyed the entire roof. So we had an architect draw up some plans to replace the existing roof, and the new plans include a 5x7 portico, which is going to cover the existing steps in the front. This is the variance that we're applying for. It's a small T on the top of our already existing steps. As far as the variance considerations, I think that actually it would increase the charm of the neighborhood. I don't feel that it is a problem for the neighbors, and I don't think a 5x7 portico is a significant or substantial change, and I don't believe it'll have an adverse effect, definitely not an adverse effect to the environment, and this was created by Hurricane Sandy.
All right.
Thank you
Yeah,
for your consideration.
There's no comments, are there?
There is, actually.
Oh, there is.
The ordinance was recently amended to permit 4x6 porticos. This
Right.
is 5x7. I think the difference between what the ordinance permits and this is really not significant.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? No. Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Ready, moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next case is case 16849, Dominic Bunacore, 21 Lincoln Avenue, Smithtown. Location, north side of Lincoln Avenue, west of Coolidge Place, Smithtown, property zone R10. Request variance to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 6 for an existing 144 square foot deck addition.
Madam Chair and members of the board, my name is Dominic Bonacor, and I reside at this location.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes, the addition of the deck was done after the fact. I had initially built, and I've have permits for the deck that was put in the back. When I first purchased the house over 30 years ago, there was an extensive deck in the front of the house, which I tore away, and which was about a third of the size larger than the one that I put up currently. The edge of the property, you stipulate as far as a variance. There is an existing variance on that property because when it was subdivided from the adjoining lot, the original surveyor did not plot the line correctly, and the purchaser of the house, Mr. and Mrs. Mary and Richard Rakowski, had issue with that property line. They were under the impression that the existing driveway that was on that side of the house was part of the parcel, only to find out later that somebody made an error and they redrew the line, at which time a variance, which I have a copy of here, was issued to the Rakowskis. After doing some modification with the home, which included regrading the front of the house because there was a runoff from the road. The property slopes away from the road, and when I added on a two-car garage to the house, I had removed the deck that was in the front of the house and then included a 12 by 12 deck in the back to accommodate for a barbecue, and later realized that it was inadequate for family, which I have quite a few members of my family, good Italian family. And so I added on the deck, not thinking that it would be intrusive, and I don't see where it imposes any type of hindrance on the adjoining property. Actually, there's an open lot next door. And the deck is, if anything, enhanced the value of the house and added to the quality of the neighborhood. I couldn't extend the deck to the rear further than what the existing deck, because the cesspool is directly off the back of that of the deck, and the only direction I could have gone was off to the side. And I did not exceed, at least I didn't realize that it had approached the property line any closer. I had actually indented, or I had built the edge of the deck 1 foot in from the end of the house, and I don't see where it has any damage, or I should say any environmental impact.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
about it.
Thanks so much.
Any questions?
Planning?
No comments then.
Gentlemen?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
It's ready to move in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next case is case 1-16825, re-advertised. William Berman, 64 Blydenburg Avenue. Okay. Smithtown, location. It's outside of Blydenburg Avenue, west of Belmead Avenue. Smithtown property zone RM7. Request variance to reduce the minimum lot frontage at setback line from 100 feet to 87 feet for a two-family dwelling. And your name, please?
William Berman,
And your address, William?
64 Blydenburg Avenue, Smithtown.
Okay. Yes.
Mailing and posting, please?
Yes.
Thanks. Oh, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay. I didn't swear you in, did I?
No.
All right. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going for a, actually, he's got the page, to reduce the frontage from 100 feet to 87, and for a two-family dwelling. And I believe that this would not produce an impact on the adjacent properties or the neighborhood, because my block already consists of multiple two-family homes and dwellings. I live next to one, and there's two more to the left of that one. This is not a separate structure. This is just existing footage in my home, and so no changes will need to be made to my home to accommodate the living quarters. Benefit can be achieved. The variance would not cause an adverse effect on the environment because, again, the living quarters is part of my home, and it wouldn't be changing anything. It's part of my house. That's pretty much it. I'm not really changing the footage.
Okay, thank you. Planning?
We recommend approval on this one. We believe it's in character with the area. The density is not greater than what's permitted as measured by the lot area. And the frontage variance, really, I think it's consistent.
Okay. And RM7 is two-family is permitted in that zone?
Right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Ready, moving second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, we'll be going back now to the adjourned cases on the back. Case 16838, Moe's Southwest Grill. I hope we have the right power of attorney. Okay, let me read it. In locations outside of Veterans Memorial Highway, Comac Road, Comac. Property zone SCB. Request variance to increase the number of wall signs from a maximum 1 sign to 2 signs. Increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 18 feet. Does he need a power of attorney? Oh, okay.
This is Mr. Walsh, the property owner. Last time, I apologize.
Okay. All right. May I have your, let me have your name, please,
Michael Walsh, W-A-L-S-H,
and your address, Michael?
28 Driftwood Drive, Port Washington, New York.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Now, would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes. Are you an officer of the corporation?
I'm not a managing member, owner, 100%.
Owner.
Okay. Is that all right? Okay. Let me have your name and address and...
Gennaro Cozzolino, Gennaro Cozzolino.
And your address?
2125 Deer Park Avenue, Deer Park, New York, 11729.
All right. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good evening, Madam Chairperson, members of the board. I'm the agent for the business owner, Michael Walsh, of Moe's Southwest Grill, located at 60 Veterans Memorial Highway in Comac. Also known as Section 116, Block 2, Lot 5.1, located in a SCB commercial zone. We are requesting relief from the board to erect a second sign where only 1 sign is permitted, and raise the sign to a height of 17 feet 8 inches, where 15 feet is permitted, a difference of 2 feet 8 inches. We are proposing to erect a sign to match the one on the front of the building, which is not substantial in size, measures 15 feet across and 3 feet wide at its largest. The main purpose of erecting the secondary sign on the north facade of the building is to improve visibility when traveling eastbound on Veterans Memorial Highway. The way the building is positioned requires you to look over your shoulder while driving eastbound to see the front sign, which is barely visible to vehicles traveling westbound, who still need to make a U-turn on Vets to get into the parking lot. Moe's receives several phone calls a day asking where they're located because they can't find the store. We have to use surrounding businesses as landmarks to our place. The sign will have no adverse physical or environmental effect on the surrounding commercial properties and will actually improve vehicular traffic and safety because potential patrons will be able to clearly see our location. I have pictures I'd like to submit to the board.
I think we have all these. We have these. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, thank you. Want to look at these?
As you can see from the pictures, it's very difficult coming in westbound to see the building, the business, and eastbound, you can barely see it because by the time you pass the building, it's already behind you. So we'd like to thank the board for their time on this matter, and we'd like a favorable approval for this variance.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ground sign out by the road?
No, they don't.
No.
Does Mo's have a separate ground sign out by the road? Okay, based on that, we recommend approval. You need recognition from the public for the business to survive, and
Certainly do.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we were there. What the fuck? Okay, anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Ridley moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Next case is case 16840, Amasi, 29 Sycamore Lane, Comac. Location northeast corner of Sycamore Lane and Indian Head Road, Comac, property zone R10. Special exception for home occupation, variance of a special exception standard to increase the FAR for office space from 400 square feet to 491 square feet. Variance of a special exception standard to increase parking spaces from 2 to 4 with an additional driveway. Variance to reduce the minimum front parking setback from 40 feet to 6 Indian Head Road. Reduce the minimum front parking setback from 40 to 25 Sycamore Lane. Increase the maximum permitted front yard paving from 25% to approximately 60% Indian Head Road. Increase the maximum permitted front yard paving from 25% to 35%. Okay, may I have your name, please?
My name is Nasser Shahid, Shahid, last name. That's my wife name, Almas Abbasi.
Okay. Okay. All right. May I have your address, please?
Yeah, it's 29 Sycamore Lane, Comic.
All right. Raise your right hand, please.
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the
Yes,
truth?
I do.
Thank you. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, yes. My name is Kevin Bertolini, Bertolini. My address is 14 Corsa Street, Corsa, in Dix Hills.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay. Madam Chairman, members of the board.
Just before we start.
Yes.
Dave, are these the designs?
Yes, we submitted modified, revised site plans for the parking. That was submitted before the last hearing date as well.
All right, so.
I can't tell from here.
This is 26, this is 26. This is December. I don't know. Is December the one?
Yeah, I have December 3rd.
Okay, so these are not the right ones. Yes, this is the right one. These three, I guess we should, are not the right, okay? Steve, thank you. Okay, I just wanted to get the right plan.
Okay.
Before you started. All right,
Okay.
thank you so much.
You're
Go
welcome.
ahead.
We also have a copy in front here as well. What's that?
Yes,
Okay.
right.
Yes, it's Dr. Shahid seeking for a special exception for a home occupation permit. The home occupation would be a secondary office to his physiatrist practice in New Jersey. The practice concentrates on a musculoskeletal ailment through life modification such as exercise, therapy, diet modifications. The use of the office will be limited to the occasional patient on Long Island that cannot make it to the Jersey office. After our initial submission to the town, I've spoken with Mr. O'Brien, and we reviewed the site plan. And under their guidance and suggestion is when we reduce the size of the parking so that the parking area does now conform to the requirements for the Planning Commission requirements for that. The property is on the corner of Indian Head Road and Sycamore Lane. And to respect the residential area, the actual office section would be towards the more busier commercial Indian Head Road side of the property. The driveway has been moved back to conform to the 75-foot required setback. The entrance to the office would be around on the side of the house facing Indian Head Road. So from the front of the house, the appearance would be that of a normal one-family residence, which is part of the whole area. The size of the addition actually does conform to all of the setback requirements and the lot coverage requirements for the zone that the property is in. So we do not feel the addition in of itself is a substantial addition to the property. And the area also has, along that strip of Indian Head Road, there's a chiropractor across the street, and you got the cerebral palsy right next door to behind, and just to the other side is the Catholic Charities building. So the whole strip right at Indian Head Road is a very, let's say, a commercial type of a property. So we feel the small addition and the use for the occasional patient that Dr. Shahid might see is in conformity to the neighborhood.
Okay. Planning?
The Planning Department recommends approval. We did a planning advisory report, I believe, in time for the last hearing. If you note that the first special exception prerequisite states that the use has to be accessory and it must be located and conducted so that the use would not be evident to the neighbors. I think that even though there's a second driveway here, that basically the combination of the sum of the two driveways is such that it still would pass as a single-family residence. And then based on the testimony, it appears that the office use will be low-key, and it won't be around the clock or a very frequent number of patients visiting the property. So I think it's certainly in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance, and we recommend approval. The revised site plan is much more in keeping. Just so the board might not be aware, the town board amended the zoning ordinance in 1985 to almost get rid of home occupations, but not quite. They used to allow 700 square feet. It wasn't a special exception. It was much more lenient until 1985. And what might be described as mini medical centers were operating in residential neighborhoods, creating traffic congestion and affecting property values and so on. And the town board decided rather than ban home occupations from residential districts, they would allow them, but allow them to in such a way that they wouldn't impact neighbors. And I think this meets that intent.
All right, now I have the PAR here. Is that the same thing that, like variance to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard, denied without prejudice? Is
Correct.
this the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, and the condition, the proposal shall be constructed in accordance with the revised site plan submitted to the Planning Department on December 3rd.
Correct, which is the one depicted
that we
over there.
have?
Depicted in the front here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, were there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
It's regularly moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. That concludes our hearings for tonight. Thank you so much.